Are you kidding me? Man, get that guy out of here. Debo's got to go. There, there's no question about it anymore. He's got to go. Also, should the 49ers be in on Cooper Cup or Miles Garrett? And who's the ideal backup quarterback for this team next season? Let's talk about it.
Yo, it's time to grind. With Brian on the mic, content is one of a kind. Now, welcome to my show, the BS Report, where we let the truth flow. We're breaking down the stories, shining light on the games. No fake news here, just hot takes throwing flames. The BS Report, yeah, we're keeping it tight. Bringing you the news, making it ignite. Tune in, turn it up, feel the heat rise. With Brian in the house, our takes won't be compromised. From the latest news to the hottest debates, in the BS Report, we're setting the stakes. So come along, join the ride, where Brian and his subscribers are full of Niner pride. Yo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Now let's get into it. I don't know how many of you guys have been watching the Super Bowl coverage. To be completely honest with you, I have not watched a whole lot of it. Honestly, just as I was intending to really get into it, I was into Senior Bowl week and a little bit of college football stuff last week. And and then I was just kind of back and forth on the Pro Bowl a little bit. I mean, just I don't even know why. There's absolutely nothing to be gained from that. It's just football, I guess. Um, and then I was just about to get into it, and then so a little bit about me. I mean, obviously, you guys all know I'm a 49ers fan, but I'm also a big, huge sports fan in general. Um, Football, basketball, baseball. I love all three of them pretty close to equally. I would say as of late, I've been more into football and baseball. But as a child, honestly, my favorite sport was basketball. That's the sport I was good at. That's the sport I played the most. Um, but I'm a Lakers fan. So Saturday night when the Luca news broke, I can't even begin to explain to you all how excited I was. And it kind of took over, you know, the sports aspect of my life for a couple of days, just trying to comprehend what just happened and how in the hell it happened. And how do the Lakers keep doing this? How do they keep getting generational talent after generational talent? Anyhow, I haven't been much into basketball lately because, full transparency, truth be told, I can't stand LeBron James. Um, so since he's been on the Lakers, it's been very, very hard for me to watch them. Um, I really like Anthony Davis. I really like Austin Reeves. And there's a couple other guys on the team that I was really a fan of, but man, I just cannot stand LeBron. So, I mean, great basketball player, I guess, but you know what? I'm not a LeBron guy. So it's been very, very hard for me to watch basketball now that he's been on my favorite team. And like I said, I've been a Lakers fan from my grandpa. My grandpa was a Lakers fan. And, you know, when I was a little boy, my grandpa was all LA teams, right? He was the Rams, um, he was the Lakers, and he was the Dodgers. So my grandpa is really the one who first really introduced me to sports, and him and my uncles. And but I chose to really go towards my grandpa's teams. And as I grew up, um, I kind of found my own way, and I switched from being a Rams fan to a 49ers fan probably when I was about, how I would say 8 or 9 years old. And I went from a Dodgers fan to a Yankees fan because I absolutely loved Derek Jeter, and honestly still my favorite baseball player of all time. Um, Derek Jeter was just the absolute definition of a professional athlete to me. And so even growing up, I seen that and I just thought, "Man, this guy does everything the right way." And when I was young, I seen that and believed that. And so he was my favorite baseball player of all time. So I was a Yankees fan until, Derek Jeter. I wouldn't even say retired because I quit being a Yankees fan long before, not long before that, but a while before that, just kind of when he fell off and he was a shell of his former self. He was still my favorite player, but I was starting to realize that it was not necessarily the Yankees that I liked, it was Derek Jeter. And I really wasn't into the Dodgers. So you know what? I live in Arizona. I'm from Arizona. I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna be a D-backs fan. I'm gonna support at least one team, professional team from my home state. So I am a 49ers fan and a Diamondbacks fan. And the one team that I never swayed from, the one team from my grandpa that I never changed was the Lakers. From I fell in love with basketball watching the Lakers. Um, and I never I never went away from that and that team. And I never really stopped watching the Lakers ever. Like I would say in my whole life until LeBron signed with the Lakers, I probably missed not many games. Um, I was all about my sports and especially, my favorite teams. Then LeBron signed and it was just, oh man, it was like a gut punch, honestly. And, that's with some people, that's a very popular opinion to have. And with others, it's a very unpopular opinion to have, but that's okay. It's mine and I stand on it. So yeah, when the news hit this weekend about um, Luca, who is my current favorite player in the NBA since Kobe retired. Luca's been my favorite player. I think, he may not have the commitment to his overall game on both ends of the floor that Kobe did. And um, but that just killer instinct that just will embarrass you. And then I mean, he's the closest guy I see in the NBA right now that just has that I'm gonna will myself to do this and you're not gonna do anything about it since Kobe. And I think it's awesome to see a guy who just has that instinct, that has that mentality. And I could imagine if now that he's on the Lakers, if a little bit of Kobe's mentality can overall, as far as work ethic, as far as just putting in the work. And I don't know Luca, I don't know that he doesn't. Um, he's got the size and strength to be a lot more on defense than he is. So I would say he probably doesn't. But if he put in the work like Kobe did, that dude would be so scary. He would be unbelievably scary. Um, and for all the things that I don't like about LeBron, one thing I can say about the guy is he's probably the most gifted athlete I've ever seen in my life. Um, and a lot of that is a testament to how he takes care of himself. And I will give him that. I will 100% give him that he definitely does take his craft seriously and he does take care of himself. And if there's one person in the league right now that was perfect for Luca to team up with and learn from, it was LeBron. They have a somewhat similar game offensively. They have a similar build. Um, I'm just talking size. But if LeBron could rub off on him as far as in the weight room, the way he eats, the way he takes care of his body, watch out for Luka. So honestly, the Mavs being complete idiots is the greatest thing that probably ever happened to that guy. So, anyways, that's enough about basketball and baseball and stuff like that. We're here to talk about the Niners. So, anyways, I barely started getting into the Super Bowl stuff within the last day or so. And I was watching it today and I seen something and man, it might just be me taking it a little too serious, but Debo's got to go. I'm sorry. We need to get this guy out of here. It might not be a big of a deal to a lot of you. To some of you guys, it might be just whatever. Is he supporting his friend? But Deebo wore an Eagles jersey to Media Row today or whatever day it was. I seen it today, but it's like, what in the wow? Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, all this shit that this guy talked just what 2022 when Purdy got hurt about that team specifically. And I get it, him and AJ Brown, which is happens to be the jersey he wore, are friends. I don't give a man, I don't care. There is no way in hell that you ever show your face in public as a member of the San Francisco 49ers wearing an Eagles jersey. Are you freaking kidding me? I mean, my lord, I couldn't believe it. And honestly, it just lit a rage inside of me. Like I wanted to go rip it off of him myself. And like I said, I might be taking it a little bit more serious than it is. I don't know. But I find it real hard to believe. Man, this is the thing. I don't know if I'm just my age is showing here, and I don't feel like I'm old. I'm, 41, about to be 42 years old. But that's to me the issue in and the NBA especially, but in all sports anymore, is these guys are all too buddy buddy. No, what happened to wanting to just destroy your opponent? You guys, I mean, what happened to that? Like, I don't understand what's going on in sports anymore to some degree. I just, man, to show up, I look at it like this. Could you imagine seeing Jerry Rice show up to a Super Bowl that like the Cowboys and Steelers were in? Could you see Jerry Rice showing up to the Super Bowl in a Dallas Cowboys Michael Irvin jersey? God, hell no. There ain't no way in hell that would ever happen. From a basketball perspective, could you ever see Magic Johnson showing up wearing a Larry Bird jersey? Or Kobe showing up wearing a Paul Pierce jersey? Get the man, no. This is oh my gosh. I don't even there's not even words. I can't even express the level of disgust that I have to see a member of the San Francisco 49ers wearing an Eagles jersey. Any other jersey for that matter. You're a 49er. You don't go repping other teams, but especially a team is disliked as the Eagles are in 49er land. And it's just wow. I can't believe it, man. And as much as this season already had me thinking, you know what, we got to get rid of Deebo. He's got to go. We can't keep doing this with Deebo. Kyle Shanahan gets fixated on him. Kyle Shanahan wants to feature him, and he gets stuck on it even when it's not working, which is almost always anymore. He needs to go. And then you see something like this, and you're like, shit, man. I live in Arizona. I'll take my truck right now to Santa Clara, pack his shit, and take him anywhere he wants to go on my dime. I could give two shits less. He needs to go. And I'm not kidding. Like, I swear on everything I love in this world. Like, I would literally do that if that was a way to get him out of here. I'm so over this shit. I'm so ready, honestly, for the culture of this team to be flipped. And this is just the latest example of it. I'm so ready. And to me, and more and more I think about it, it's the reason why I want Kyle gone. Not it's not just about his play calling. It's not just about his tendency to choke when it matters, his ever never ending blown fourth quarter leads. It's not just about his stubbornness or his pettiness, his ego, his inability to learn and evaluate himself. It's just the culture that he's developed in this team, and I feel like it holds him back from getting better because they all have this opinion, and it's just, man, I want You know what's funny is you remember the whole Mike Singletary, everybody, teases him or makes fun of him and everything, but the one thing about him, you know, I want winners. And the whole just mindset of the way things need to be done. And he wasn't a very good coach. I'll grant that, but the way that he was, that's that's to me what a football team should be. You know, you get paid, and I'm not here trying to bean count for all these guys or be their accountants or be the gatekeeper for their finances. I could really give two craps what they do or don't make, to be honest with you. And I'm one of the guys who believes that any person, I don't care who you are, if you have the ability to capitalize on your name and make as much money as you can on whatever it is you have to offer, go for it. Go for it. Um, but when you do that, there does come certain responsibilities. And when you're a professional athlete and you make the amount of money that you make, primarily because of people like you and me, if it wasn't for guys like us, see, this is the thing that gets to me is you hear these athletes from time to time and they talk about how, fans are this and fans are that. You know what? But if it wasn't for fans, you wouldn't be shit. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I'm not trying to be. Not all athletes are this way. But there is a lot of them out there who think that they are entitled to what they have because they are who they are. No, you're not. That's not the way it works. You have what you have, and you are what you are as far as a professional athlete that's handsomely paid because fans like me and fans like you guys decide to invest our money into it. If we decided to stop doing that, then guess what? You would just be some dude who knows how to play football or basketball or baseball or whatever sport. You would be no different than me, just a little more athletic. You know, you would have to come join me in my world where I would probably most certainly outshine you. So don't give me this shit about, you know, having this entitlement, and so you're paid in the case of Debo, $25 million a year to perform your best in your profession. And I just don't feel like these some not, and I don't want to generalize. I'm not saying all of them because there's a lot of athletes, like I said, like LeBron. I'm not even a fan of LeBron, but I will say the dude takes his profession very seriously and he works his ass off. And so, you know, I'm not gonna say Nick Bosa is another one. I mean, you can tell. Look at the guy. No, if you have a chance to look at the picture of Debo, what, the season's a month over and the dude's already got a fucking a beer belly. I mean, come on, man. Put the cheeseburgers and the Bud Light down and let's get to work. You're paid $25 million dollars a year. And to me, it's like, it just blows my mind how some of these athletes just don't. And I know I'm kind of getting off subject here a little bit because, you know, this first take on this stream was about Debo wearing an Eagles jersey, not his commitment to being in shape in the offseason. But to me, they go hand in hand. It just shows his mentality, is what I'm trying to say. He doesn't have that killer instinct. He doesn't have that, you know, work ethic, that Mamba mentality. He doesn't have that because if he did, he would not be showing up to Media Row on Super Bowl week in an Eagles jersey with a freaking beer belly. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. I guarantee you're not going to see Nick Bosa with the beer belly wearing, you know, a Seattle Seahawks jersey. It's not going to happen. The guy takes his profession seriously, and he may not be living up to my standards or your standards, and who knows what the reason for that is. I honestly don't think it's a lack of effort. To me, all of Debo's issues are entitlement. It's culture set by Kyle Shanahan. It's his relationship with Kyle that has put this mentality into him. Because you can't tell me from day one, if he came in and worked his ass off and busted his butt, that he wouldn't be still at the top of his game. Because I believe he would. He would have developed the ability to actually be a wide receiver, to run routes, maybe not be the best route runner and the best against man coverage in the NFL, but he sure as hell wouldn't be worse than our starting running back at those things. So, you know, it's all in the mindset and the culture that's been established with this team. And that's the bullshit that needs to change. And I might be reaching for things here, but seeing Deebo show up in that jersey just reinforces that thought in my head that the the culture of this team is just, at least with certain players, and it's the players that matter, honestly, because it's the players that he favors. He favors Debo. He favors guys like Kyle Juszczyk, who, in all honesty, probably shouldn't even be in the league. What does he do? What does Kyle Juszczyk do, really, that deserves to be, what, 7 million this coming season against a salary cap? For what? I don't get it. I don't think he deserves to be in this league. I don't think he deserves to be paid what he's paid based on what he does. Now, again, I'm not trying to be the gatekeeper of his finances, whatever, make your money, buddy, but I am a fan of this team, and I am a person who puts my personal finances into this league. So, some of the money that those guys have in their pocket is because guys and girls like you and guys like me buy the things that we buy and watch the games that we watch and invest ourselves into this shit. So you're damn right, I'm going to have an opinion on it. And if they can't handle that, then to hell with them. That's their problem, not mine. So, I feel like, and that's a funny thing too, from a physical standpoint, a lot of these players are very, very, very invested. And all of these players, from a physical everyday thing, are way more invested in this than I am. But I can almost guarantee you that there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions and millions and millions of fans who are more invested in whatever team. I'm talking about the 49ers at this specific moment. So are more invested in the San Francisco 49ers than any single player on that team, from an emotional, from a year standpoint. I mean, I mean, if I live to be 110 years old, I will have been a 49ers fan, emotionally invested in that team for 100 years. I can almost say with certainty that there's not one of those players on that team that feels that way, And there's lots of you guys out there that feel like that are 100% committed. And it's because we're fans. I get it. We don't get to be a part of it the way that they are. Um and it's a business for them, and I understand all of that. Completely understand all of that. That football is their business, which means that their body is the equipment in their business. You know what I mean? That's what makes them the money. So when you see guys like Debo who don't take that shit serious, and it's all starts up here, and all of that is instilled from the coach. And if it's not, and not even just Kyle, but obviously coaches prior to that as well, you know, some coach at some point failed that young man because he is so entitled and so just, I don't even know what the right word for it is, honestly, but it's definitely been reestablished with Kyle Shanahan. That mindset has been groomed with Kyle Shanahan because he's done nothing to change it, and he's had the ability to. And I don't understand it because he's done stuff with other players. He's been harder on other players. He just has his favorites. And to me, that doesn't build a strong culture. That doesn't build for a strong team. And it can work good for a few years as long as those players play that he does favor play at the top of their game. But in the long run, it's going to fail. That's never going to work. Any team environment, I don't care if it's a sport or some other company or a family, it doesn't matter. If you're not all locked in and working together as one unit, it's going to fail. But when you have somebody who's supposed to be leading whichever organization you have, whether it's a football team, whether it's a different corporation or business, whether it's a classroom in a school, it doesn't matter. A church, a government, a family. When you have somebody who is supposed to be leading and they're showing favoritism to certain people over other people, that is a situation that's bound to fail. And that's the type of culture and mentality that Kyle Shanahan is employing with the 49ers, and it's not going to work ultimately. And that's one of the reasons why I believe he's never going to win. Because at some point, the players that you have neglected, the players that you have, for lack of a better word, turned your back on, you're going to need them. And you're going to need them to step up, and you're going to need them to be something. You're going to need them to run through a brick wall for you, and they're just not gonna. And they're going to get out of there the first opportunity that they have. And, you know, if you built a culture of togetherness, if you built a culture of work ethic and fight and determination, and you haven't accomplished anything until you've accomplished everything, if you built that kind of a culture within a team, it will last and last and last. Look at the Chiefs. Look at all the turnover that team has had. Look at all the turmoil and ups and downs, and even they have a quarterback who's viewed as one of the two best, more often than not, the best quarterback in the NFL, and he can have a down year, and yet they keep rolling. They keep going because they have a leader in that organization that has built a culture of us, that has built a culture of we. I have never, ever, ever heard Andy Reid make it about him. I have never, ever, ever heard Andy Reid make it about Travis Kelce. I have never even heard him make it about Patrick Mahomes. I've heard him give praise to Patrick Mahomes, but I've never heard him single out one player as the reason for their success. And he's never done that in how he runs his team as well. He traded Tyreek Hill in the prime of his career because he knew that it should be about the team. He's let go of so many players because it needed to be about the team. He put the team first. And I guarantee you, if the situation called for it, now I don't know what the situation would be to call for it, but if it did call for it, and the best thing for the Kansas City Chiefs was to move on from Patrick Mahomes, he would. I don't have a question in my mind about that. So, to me, seeing Deebo strolling down Media Row in that Eagles jersey today just was a big fat reminder of how, in my opinion, how lacking the culture on our San Francisco 49ers is. How just sad it is. And like I said, I might be making too much out of a jersey, but I don't believe I am. I don't. Um, I seen a little bit of some fans in like comments on pictures of that. And there's a lot of fans who feel similarly that I do, where it's just unacceptable. It really is. It is completely unacceptable. And, you know, support your friend. There's lots of ways of doing that. That's cool. And I'm not even saying that these NFL players shouldn't be friends because, guys like Magic Johnson, he was really good friends with Larry Bird and Isaiah Thomas. But he also wanted to kill him. on the court, and he sure as hell wouldn't wear their jersey. I don't believe he would. I know he wouldn't. I know he wouldn't, and I know that a lot of players in the NBA Kobe Bryant respected, but he'd sooner stomp all over them than he would wear their jersey in the NBA finals. For one thing, Kobe would be so pissed that he wasn't in the NBA finals, it'd be a cold day in hell before he showed up to watch them. I can guarantee you that right now. Right now. So I just, man, I seen that and I was like, man, I got to talk about this. Devo's got to go. We got to get him out of here. Yeah, it's just, it still blows my mind. You know, almost as shocking as Luca getting traded to the Lakers. Almost. He shouldn't be. It shouldn't be surprising. It shouldn't be. Seeing how he's handled himself the last few years, it shouldn't be surprising. The dude just doesn't take his game seriously. He doesn't take his profession seriously, in my opinion. And here's the thing: like, I've had some private messages sent to me, which is cool. Like, I'm not complaining. If you want to send me a private email or whatever and tell me what you think of me, I don't have a problem with that. I can handle it. I got thick skin. But telling me that I'm, you know, too hard on these guys sometimes, and I really don't think I am. I don't know what I've ever really said, but at the end of the day, I'm not attacking Deebo Samuel as a person. Like, I want to make that clear right now. I don't know Deebo. I don't know the slightest thing about him as a person. He might be a great guy. He probably helps thousands of people, kids, all the stuff. He probably does. And that's great. Good for him. Good for him. I'm talking specifically as a professional athlete. I go off of what I see. And what I see is I see somebody who comes into training camp out of shape more times than not. I see a guy who the season's been over for a month and he's showing up to the Super Bowl with a freaking beer belly. I don't know if it's a beer belly, but it's a belly anyways. You know what I mean? I see a guy who has all the potential in the world to be one of the elite athletes in the NFL. Just from a pure physical tool standpoint, and I see a guy who let's take, I haven't let's take a guy like Trey Lance, right? And a guy like Deebo. Trey Lance has, like Deebo, all the physical tools in the world to be a really good quarterback. Whether or not he has the mental tools, I don't know. I believe he does. You may believe he doesn't. Neither one of us really know. But from a purely athletic, physical tool standpoint, what God has gifted him with, he has all the tools in the world to be a premier athlete. So does Deebo. From what I've seen, Trey Lance has the work ethic to make it happen. Deebo does not. Trey Lance has the drive and the desire to make it happen. And obviously, Deebo does not. Here's what the difference between the two is. Kyle Shanahan shows favoritism towards Deebo. And regardless of his limitations, because if you think about it, in my opinion, Deebo Samuel is the Trey Lance of the wide receivers. People say that Trey Lance can't hit the layups. He can't hit the easy passes. Well, Deebo can't run a simple freaking route. He's a wide receiver. So what's the honest difference besides the position they play? And I get it. That's a big one. That's huge. One plays wide receiver, running back, whatever you want to call it. The other one plays quarterback. And that's a big difference. A huge difference. I get that. But although Debo has all the limitations, and although you have to really, really, really make specific game plans in order to even get Debo involved, in order to even let him have any kind of an impact on the game, you have to specifically game plan for him. Like most of the other wide receivers on the team, you make your game plan. If one goes down, you plug the other one in there, and they can do similar things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you take Brandon Ayuk out and you put Conley in. Now, he's not going to do it to the same level as Ayuk, but he can still do it. You can't put Debo in Ayuk's position. He cannot do it. He can't. So the reality is the difference between Debo and the difference between Trey is Kyle Shanahan like Debo. He is willing to let Debo play through his struggles. He's willing to let Debo play in spite of his limitations. He's willing to game plan around his limitations. He's willing to have patience with Debo undeservingly. You have patience for a season or two, maybe three. But at this point, the patience should be gone, but they're not. With Trey, he didn't have patience with Trey. He could not adjust himself to Trey. He adjusted himself to Debo, but he cannot adjust himself to Trey, or I won't say cannot. I believe he can. He would not adjust himself to Trey. That's the difference. They're both guys who needed help to reach the top level of their professions. Neither one of them have, and more than likely, neither one of them will reach that. Trey, because he didn't get a fair shot. Like it or not, say what you will about Trey Lance, he didn't get a fair shot. He didn't. Debo did, and he blundered it, honestly. He did enough to get himself paid, and then once he did, it was done. It was over. And, it's really sad. It's really sad to see that because, I mean, and I'm just using Trey Lance because he was a 49er. There's lots of guys around the league that way. Now, I don't think any guy in recent memory that I can think of that have gotten screwed as much as Trey Lance has gotten screwed. I mean, that guy's gotten a raw deal. I mean, it's pretty sad in my opinion. I think Kyle Shanahan, like, he destroyed Trey Lance's career as far as I'm concerned from just by drafting him. That just goes to show the lack of self-awareness, the lack of, I guess the only thing I could say is preparation. I trying to think of a more forgiving word than that to use in regards to Kyle, because I don't want to say Kyle doesn't work hard. I think he does. It's inexplicable, honestly, to think of how it happened with Trey, because he never should have drafted him. He never should have drafted him because he should have had the awareness in himself to know that he was never going to put in the work that it would take to develop him. Because I have to believe that he had to know who Trey was, where he was at, and what he was capable of doing at that point. And if he didn't, then shame on him. If he didn't, then that's horrible. What does that say about him? What does that say about Kyle if he didn't know? There's been lots of quarterbacks that came into the league and were busts. And Trey could have very easily been that. And he probably at this point has turned into that. But you know what? Those quarterbacks, every one of them got a shot. They got a chance. You can't tell me that Trey Lance is the worst rookie quarterback to ever come into the NFL. That's not true. It's not. It's not even close. There's far worse quarterbacks who have come into the NFL. They got a chance. They ended up being bust. And you know what? The coaches thought that they seen something in him, and it turned out to not be true, but the coaches continued and continued and continued to try and pull it out of him. The only other quarterback that I would say kind of, and I don't even know that he got misdrafted, or I mean, Josh Rosen. But you know what? Kyler Murray happened to him. And I guess people could say Brock Purdy happened to Trey too, but Rosen got a season. You know what I mean? Like, he got a chance. Trey got 4 games, and not even consecutively. A game here and 2 games there. I mean, to me, that whole blunder right there, the Trey Lance blunder, is something that should be, bolded and highlighted on Kyle Shanahan's resume, that he effed that up that bad. Because that's to me like one of the craziest things that I've ever seen watching football, that you can trade the number of assets that you traded to get him and then immediately give up on him. How in the world? And that leads me to wonder too about Jed York. What kind of dude are you? What I mean, from a ownership standpoint, like I said, I'm not going at these guys personally. From a professional standpoint, from a business standpoint, what kind of a guy is Jed York? What kind of a leader is Jed York of a multi-billion-dollar franchise, that he's going to let the guy that he has running the team give away 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick? Just like that. Just throw it in the garbage. Like it's nothing. Because they never gave Trey a shot. I don't know whether Trey would have been good or not. I believe he would have, given the opportunity, given a coach that would put the time and effort into him. I believe he would have been good. And I still believe that he could be. I really do. And I think that this coming off season, if he goes to the right situation, it's funny. I was going to have another topic on this show. I was going to ask if the 49ers should sign Trey Lance again. I'm talking myself out of it right now. Because my opinion was going to be yes. But I'm talking myself out of it right now just because our coach is Kyle Shanahan. Because, it's sad to me to see a guy like that who had so much promise and just a nice guy, such a good guy. And I'm the kind of person, I root for guys like that. I root for guys that just appear, like I said, I don't know Trey, I don't know Brock, I don't know any of these guys, but these guys appear to be good guys to me. Trey appears to be a good guy to me. And, I want to root for him. I want to see him do well. And it's sad that he got dealt the hand that he did. Ultimately, I think it'll probably make him a stronger person. But, it's all a matter of what he gathers from it, I guess. But you see somebody who has similar limitations, yet albeit in a different position, in Deebo. Deebo has all the limitations that Trey does for his position. To be completely truthful with you, Deebo Samuel should not be a starting wide receiver in the NFL. He shouldn't be. I'll say it again. Deebo Samuel should not be a starting wide receiver in the NFL. He's a gadget guy. He's a wide receiver 4. And, and that was in his good days, probably, in all honesty. Now, when he was at the top of his game, he was a starter because you could use him in so many different ways. But just as a pure wide receiver, Deebo should have never got the contract that he got, because he's not a wide receiver. He's not. He's not a running back either. I don't know what he is. He can't run the ball to save his freaking life. So I have no clue what he is. The NFL caught up with that real quick and shut his ass down. So people saying, well, Deebo's just a really good running. No, he's not. He's not a good running back. He's not a good receiver. He's not a good blocker. He's lazy. He's out of shape. All the things I said about Luca, that's Deebo for real. Like I think that Deebo, in all honesty, probably has more limitations at his position than Trey does at his. Now, Deebo has more of an opportunity to make stuff happen because of the position he plays. Like I said, you can game plan a little bit easier around Deebo's limitations than you can Trey's at this point. But what does Deebo do well? Besides, at his best, the best thing he did was break tackles, get yards after the catch. But you damn well better put the ball right on him. Right on him. Hit him in stride. And because in reality, he doesn't do anything well. People say Trey can't make the layups. He can't hit the short passes. He's, he some people even say he can't get through his reads and all this other stuff. Well, to me, the things that limit Trey are also the things that limit Deebo. Different positions, you know what I mean? But they're similar in their limitations. And Deebo got a shot. Deebo had a coach that believed in him. Deebo had a coach that was willing to invest the time into him. Didn't bear any fruit from it. Let's be honest about that. Shanahan invested the time, but he did not bear the fruits of his labor. That's for sure. Because what have we gotten? One good year. In Deebo's whole career, we've gotten one good season. We've got a season or two that were okay, and we've gotten a few just bad ones. So, I would be real curious to know what would have happened if Kyle, and it's crazy because Kyle used a second round pick on Deebo. He used 3 firsts and a third on Trey and gave him nothing but a swift kick in the ass on the way out the door. So I would be real curious to see what would have happened if Kyle would have put what's Deebo 7 years, 8 years now? What if Kyle would put 7 or 8 years into Trey? Let me ask you this question, guys. Truthfully, whether you're a Trey hater or a Trey fan or somewhere in the middle, I really want to know your honest opinion, and don't just fill the comments full of hate. Like be for real. If Kyle would have invested even 4 or 5 years, his rookie contract, if Kyle would have invested Trey Lance's entire rookie contract into him, start to finish, supported him and encouraged him and propped him up the way he's did in Deebo, if he would have gave Deebo or Trey Lance the Deebo treatment for 5 years, today, who would be better, Trey or Deebo? In their positions, who would be ranked higher? Would Deebo be a higher ranked wide receiver, or would Trey Lance be a higher ranked quarterback amongst all the other players in their position? I'm not saying who would be better because, generally the quarterback is better than the wide receiver, but I'm just saying where Deebo ranks amongst all the wide receivers, where would Trey rank amongst all the quarterbacks, and who would be ranked higher? Because I almost guarantee you Trey would be higher. Now, I get it. The fact that the 49ers were contenders is not lost on me. I understand. I understand why Kyle went with Brock when he did. I understand why Kyle made that decision. But from the get-go, he didn't invest into Trey. And he should have had the wherewithal to know what he was getting himself into when he drafted him. That's what I'm trying to say. He should have known from the very get-go the guy he was getting. And if he didn't, man, that is such a negative mark against him that he didn't know that he was not able to he didn't scout him, obviously. He didn't do enough. And if you want to say, well, it's because of COVID and the pandemic and he couldn't, then he shouldn't have drafted a quarterback. You don't trade all those assets away and draft that position, which is the most important position in all of sports. You don't do that unless you're able to do enough homework where you, in your mind, are 100% convinced. It don't matter if I agree with you or Mel Kiper or any of these analysts agree with you. It doesn't matter. In your mind, you needed to be 1000% convinced that this guy was everything that you wanted and needed. If you're going to give away those kind of assets, then you need to be 1000% convinced. And how I know that he wasn't, because you can be that, okay? You can be 1000% convinced and still be wrong. That happens. That's human nature. I get it. I wouldn't hold it against him. I mean, I would eventually, I guess, but it would take time. But I know Kyle was not 1000% convinced because Kyle is stubborn. Kyle is egotistical. Kyle is the most just stuck in his ways. You're not going to change his mind person that I think I've ever seen. And if he felt that way about Trey, then he never would have gave up on him after 4 starts. As soon as Trey walked off the stage on draft night, Kyle gave up on him already. And had Kyle felt 1000% like that guy was his Josh Allen, he would not have done that. Brock Purdy or no Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo or no Jimmy Garoppolo, it wouldn't have mattered. That would have been Kyle's guy. He would have rode with him. Period. End of story. That's how I know he was never convinced. And so if that's the case, if he was never sold, then why did he give up what he gave up to draft him? There's no way that you can spin Kyle Shanahan's handling of that situation and his handling of Deebo. There's no way you can spin it and make it okay. It's just not. The culture that he has set inside this franchise is not okay. And you can't spin it otherwise. It's impossible. I encourage you guys out there to try. But there's going to be holes in whatever you say because it's inexplicable. Like I said, there's no explanation that you can give that makes it okay what he did with Trey and how he's been with Deebo and Juszczyk and the friends in his Cabo clique. There's just no way. The way that he's mishandled young players and rookies, the way that he's gotten so many quarterbacks hurt, the way that he runs his highest paid running back in the league into the ground, there's no way that you can explain Kyle Shanahan's mismanagement of this roster and the assets in it and make it okay. There's not. Christian McCaffrey was not the only back that he had on the roster. He had other good ones, not just guys with titles, not just guys on the depth chart with positions by their name. They were actually serviceable, good running backs. Had CMC not came back and Jordan Mason not got hurt, he probably would have led the league in rushing this year. He was on the team last year. He did not need to do to McCaffrey what he did. All the games that we played this year, and he just kept trying to force feed Deebo and force feed Deebo and force feed Deebo the ball. He didn't have to do that. And then you come out and see what happens when he spreads the ball around to guys like Pearsall, even Conley, all these guys, Kittle. Look what happens when he starts to feature Kittle in the offense. Look at how it opens things up. But he's so stubborn. And then you have, after a win, after a great game, you have Deebo come out and complain. That's what I'm talking about as far as the culture of this team. Until that mindset changes, this team is not going to win anything. I don't care how talented they are. They strolled into that Super Bowl last year believing that they were better than the Chiefs. Maybe they were, but the Chiefs were Super Bowl champions, not the 49ers. The 49ers should have went into that game thinking, we're going to show you that we're better than you. We're going to prove that we're better than you. We're going to stomp you so hard you have no choice but to admit we're better than you. But they didn't. They didn't. Kyle Shanahan himself went into that game thinking he was going to out cute Spagnuolo and Andy Reid. No. Go and do the things that got you there. Why do you every single game, Kyle, have to make it about you trying to show you're the smartest guy in the world? Quit doing that dumb shit, man. Because in doing that, guys like Spagnuolo and Andy Reid just laugh and say, "No, buddy, you're not." Because how about this? And they prove how much smarter they are than he is. When in reality, if he just did what got him there and we played 49er football, as Kyle Juszczyk likes to say, we probably win the game. And the first one. And the one against the Rams. But that's where this mindset and this culture stuff comes from. That's where guys like Deebo get that from. Because there's even a little bit of entitlement all up and down the roster. You can see little pieces of it. And it's just, it baffles me. And that's why I believe that sooner or later, hopefully sooner, there has to be a regime change in this organization in order for us to accomplish the goal that we all want. And that's number 6. And then number 7. And so on and so forth. I just don't see how it's possible with this team. And when I started this video today, I had no intention on going on a 1-hour rant about I didn't even have any intention of bringing him up, really. To be honest with you, my video was going to be about Deebo needing to go because of the whole Eagles jersey thing. I wasn't intending to go into this whole uh, hour-long rant about it and what it means to me. Then I was planning to talk about whether or not we should sign Trey Lance. And finally, I was going to talk about whether we should entertain Myles Garrett or Cooper Kupp. But as I got into this, all the emotions of all this just kind of filled me up again, and it led me to where we're at right now. And that's where, damn it, Deebo and Kyle need to go. And I've been down this road already in this offseason and in the end of this season. And as dumb as it may seem, and as hard as it is to figure out how I tied a stupid Eagles jersey into all of this, it got me here. And now I'm back here again where, man, I didn't know I could get any more disappointed in Deebo. And then he goes and does some dumb shit like that. And then it just goes and leads me to the realization that this is all in the culture and the way that Kyle Shanahan has turned this organization. And I'm over it. Not that it matters because I can't do shit about it, but I am over it. And so it's been an hour, guys. I do still intend, probably maybe later tonight, maybe tomorrow, to make that other video, whether or not we should sign Trey Lance. I think I might have covered it, so we might not go into that. But I do intend to make the video on, Myles Garrett and Cooper Kupp and other potential free agents. Here real shortly, we're going to start getting into the combine and the draft and college players, stuff like that. So anyhow, guys, I look forward to your engagement in the comments. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.